Hey everybody, welcome to Talk It Up with Tamika. Hope everyone is doing well. I am super excited to continue the talk Prune for Purpose. As I mentioned on last week, I am doing a month-long series each Thursday to dive deeper in what it means to be pruned for purpose. So today, hanging out with me is family. She is no stranger to the South Florida community, and that is no other than Miss Sherronda Daye. She is a full time entrepreneur, minister, motivational speaker, and mother to two beautiful, dynamic daughters. Welcome, Miss Day.
That sounds so official. Hi, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for hanging out with me. Not that you had a choice, but thank you.
You're welcome.
So, to our viewers who are watching, please go ahead, like, and share this video because it's about to get real good. So, Sharonda,
Yes, ma'am.
let's begin with what is your definition of view of pruning?
Um, so it's funny you ask because if anybody knows me know that I like to dig into words.
Yes.
So when everybody thinks about pruning, they think about the basic definition of cutting away dead or overgrown things. But I was like, there's different definitions of pruning. It just depends on in what concept we're talking about. You can be pruned psychologically, you can be pruned, physically. And so for me, it's basically cutting away or pruning, cutting away or removing the things that are keeping you from growing and from producing what you were created to produce.
All
If I
right. I
had,
like So thank you for sharing your definition. So let's dig a little deeper. As you know, we are living in interesting times. As an entrepreneur yourself, what would you say to other entrepreneurs who are being pruned in a pandemic? They may have already been going through the process, but now the pandemic has hit and their faith is being tested even more. So what do you say to them?
huh, there's a lot I can say. Um, But first of all, to tell them that they're not in it by themselves. Like you are not alone in these feelings that you're having of the uncertainty of the future of your business. Where's your business going to go from here? Are you even going to have a viable business when this is over? Like, are your products and services even going to be needed for this new, the new age that we're walking into? Um, but I don't want anyone to feel like they're the only ones that are thinking or feeling that way. Just because, you may see people on Facebook who seem to be thriving, who appear to have booming businesses. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but one of the things that, bothers me so much about a lot of entrepreneurs and those that are believers on top of that is that we're a lot of foliage, but we're no fruit. you
Mm.
know I, we look good, right? We got the best headshots, our websites are nice, we got posting down to a T. We know how to angle right on the camera and show these products and make it seem like another one just bought today. But if you remove if you prune and trim away the foliage, where's the fruit?
Yeah.
Right? So I don't want any entrepreneur to get caught up in other people's statuses and what other people post that they are when they're not living up to who they are supposed to be, pose in the Ebonic language of supposed to be. So that be mindful of the spirit of self-doubt and that low esteem that's starting to creep in, that fear. Like come against that, and the way to come against that is to just balance yourself. Like it's okay to be being pruned in this crisis and still have this crisis on your mind. But we are those that are that thrive during crisis. Like, you can still thrive during this time. You just got to figure out. And for those of us who believe in God, ask Him, like, what fruit did you call for me to produce in this season? Right? Because if we want to get biblical, it wasn't even fig season when He went up to the fig tree to get a fig
No,
to
it
eat.
isn't.
But the point is, whether you are a fig tree or not, whatever type of tree you are called to produce fruit. That's the whole point. You didn't choose him. He chose you. And he appointed you and chose you to go produce fruit that will last. If you know the Bible, just go ahead and read it. This is John 15. That you didn't choose him. He chose you to be a tree. And your job as a tree is to produce the fruit that you were created to produce. So if you're not producing fruit in this season, no wonder you feel cursed. No wonder you feel like you're dying. It's no wonder you feel useless because you are not producing what it was you were created to produce for the use of the kingdom. And so that's, I don't remember what you asked me, but I think that all kind of, kind of went together. I just, honestly, I don't want anyone to get caught up in the names, right? In the big names in the game. Like if your area is um clothing and somebody in the big name in the game seem to be selling more clothes than you, or if your game is real estate, if your game is speaking, if your game is hosting events, and none of that is going on right now, it's like you have been given the ability when you were created as a tree that you got something that other trees who don't have the Father don't have. And what you have is the promise that he will give you whatever it is you ask in Jesus' name. So
Amen.
we're out here looking for names to throw out. We love the name drop. We love to act like we connected with everybody. But you have the only name that you ever need to name drop in your game. You just got to learn that name. You got to understand the power and the access and the connections that are attached to that name. People drive me crazy. They love to be talking about, oh, yeah, I know so and so, and oh, my mentor so and so, and da 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 da. That don't mean nothing to nobody in this season. You have been given the only name that you ever need to use to open doors. And that doesn't mean like we're so spiritually high that we're carnal, nothing. Granted, he will give you earthly names to use whose minds you are already on and you may not even know them. And so I don't want us to get caught up in the names that come up and down timelines and the names that come up and down news feeds. Like, you have been given the only name you ever need to use in a name drop in order to be successful, even in the midst of a pandemic.
Amen. You dropped a lot of powerful gems right there. And and you brought up John 15. It's so funny because I was actually reading that leading up to us, to us speaking. And something that stuck out to me in John 15 is when it says that he prunes it so that it may bear more fruit.
Yeah.
So it shows that you have to go through a process. You may be doing well. It's a possibility that you may be doing well, but then you have to go through a process so you could achieve even more, that you could even go even higher. And some people get so stuck and caught up in their now that they don't see that there's more out there for them.
And we get stuck in the fact that pruning is painful, right?
Yeah.
I think sometimes we as believing entrepreneurs feel like it's supposed to be easy for us because we know the Lord. It's supposed to be easy for us because we got a relationship. Like, the only time you promise no pain in your life is when you get to heaven. Until then, pain is an absolute necessity. And it's not pruning is not a punishment for us, right? It is actually a reward because he only prunes those who he has purpose for. If he's not pruning you, you ain't got no purpose. So you might as well pack it on up and try something else or get a regular job. But if you feel like you're being pruned, if you feel like the branches that are too much that you shouldn't be connected to, like, let's not even go there, right? Because the whole natural sense of pruning, of trees being pruned, is when you cut back the limbs from a tree, the limbs that are overhanging, them limbs that you don't need to be attached to in the first place. So if you want to be technical, we can talk about these people you don't need to be attached to, these places you don't need to be attached to, these mindsets that you don't need to be attached to. And so during this time, allow yourself to be pruned. Yes, people falling off, it's going to hurt. Yes, doors closing in your face, it's going to hurt. Yes, the loss of contracts happening, it hurts. but it is all for the good. It all is going to work for your good. And I think that we just get caught up in that superficial life where we feel like we're not supposed to experience what other people are experiencing when it comes to pain. Like, it's not supposed to be easy for you just because you have a relationship. That's why it's hard for you. He said that you will be persecuted because you walk in my name. Like, that's what it's supposed to. If you ain't ready for that, don't sign up for this life, because it's not going to be easier. The work is hard. It's hard work, but the reward is great for those who diligently seek him and who are called according to his purpose in your life. You know, I think a lot of us think that the trees that we are those trees for our own purpose. No, you're not. Like, no, that's not why you were created. You were not created for the purpose of eating your own fruit. You might be called to bear fruit that you don't necessarily like.
Yeah. Where's the mic? I need to drop the mic.
Like, let's just be honest. You might be called to bear fruit that you don't even like.
Yeah.
But you're not supposed to consume your own fruit. Anything that consumes itself is I don't know what the term is, but we don't eat ourselves. That ain't what we do. We don't eat our young. That ain't what we do.
No.
Right? We're not carnivorous like that. So you got to be willing to bear fruit that might not feel good. It might not taste good to you. It might not look good to you, but it is good for those that you have been called to eat from the tree that you are.
That is true, because a lot of times it causes for us to get out of our comfort zone, and many times we get comfortable, we get complacent, and we don't want to leave that area because it's familiar. But in order for us to grow, in order for us to move to the next level, we have to come out that comfort zone. We have to come out that complacency. We have to move to new territory, because that's just like Abraham. God called him to move. He had no idea where he was going, but he had to move in order to receive the promise, in order to walk into his full purpose. And that goes for us too. In order for us to move into our full purpose, we have to walk when God says walk. We can't get comfortable in the familiar. So that means sometimes leaving family members behind, leaving best friends that you know since childhood, leaving that work that you love to do, even if it's a 9 to 5. If God said leave, we gotta leave.
We don't have a choice, right? Well, let me say this: you have a choice, but I would, not. I would not choose not to be pruned, because we've already established that He prunes those that He loves. He prunes those that He has a purpose for, and I think if you want to be honest about it, a lot of people prefer to be foliage, right? They prefer to look real green and real, effervescent, like just like they just blossoming. But what's foliage with no blossom? Like, what's foliage with fruit? What's foliage with no flower? Like, you just another green thing. Like, you just another same thing that serves really no purpose. And like, what's the purpose of foliage? To fill in spaces. Think about when we go to events. When you have dead space at the event, most event planners and decorators are going to fill those dead spaces with foliage.
Yes.
Because it hides. So you got all of these people, like I said earlier, they got headshots, websites, all this kind of stuff, but ain't incorporated, don't have no license, ain't insured, don't have no business plans, bank account, none of the fruit of the foliage that you appear to be do you have. Like, if somebody calls on you, walks up to your tree and wants to pluck a piece of fruit from your tree that will bless you, you don't even have what it takes to produce for them to even bless you.
Wow.
If somebody has money for you to receive during this crisis, a grant or a love offering, but there's a requirement that you're licensed and insured or incorporated, and you don't have none of that, what's the point? Like, when are we going to have another opportunity to have this much time on our hands to handle our business? This is pruning season.
Yes.
it's pruning season. I think we just need to get past what it feels like and just get past what it. And I'm not saying that it's easy,
No,
because
it's
it's
not.
not easy. Because if you don't have the earthly resources that you are accustomed to having in order to fulfill the needs in your life, it's very difficult to make the transition of understanding I may not have the earthly necessities, but heaven is open. And
Yes.
make no mistake, don't get it twisted. The blood still works. And so if you don't know how to activate that in your life, that's probably why you're feeling so low, right? And not looking so foliage like or fruitful, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to depend on the foliage to fill in the empty spaces that you hoping we don't see, but we see them.
Yeah, and that's one thing I admire about you, is your creativity and your tenacity to just pick yourself up and keep it moving. And I understand, the struggle that comes with it, but I've learned over the years that you're not one to just stay in your feels. That it's okay to feel, but you're
Yeah.
not one to stay in it. You know what I'm saying? You come up with a plan, you activate it, and you make it happen. I love that about you. Like, although I'm older than you, like, I admire you for, all that you do, because I mean, you even get on my case, and I appreciate it, because we need people like that can, recognize the gift in you and want to see you flourish, and will, read you every now and then. So I thank you for that. Yeah.
I appreciate that. And it's like, I don't want anybody to misunderstand it. Like, my ability to pivot, my ability to be obedient when God says, I need you to shift because I need to shake your tree this way. I don't want nobody to think I don't feel it. I feel every ounce of it. Right. And so, just like a personal example, when we came into the era of where we are, right, and the end of the age that we were in, I everybody that knows I do everything sweet, right? Everything sugar. But during this time, ain't nobody thinking about sugar, right? My corporate clients aren't even open for me to produce that. So I had to be willing to let go of the fruit that I had been producing for that season and be willing for God to prune me to produce better fruit and more fruit for this season. I don't know nothing about half of the stuff I'm doing right now. But I've learned to realize that it's not my will, it's his will for my life. And if he gives you the idea, I need people to understand, if you are laying in your bed, you walking, whatever you're doing, and an idea comes to you, he's giving you everything that you need for this time. Like,
Yes.
don't dismiss the idea because it's so far fetched from what you're used to. It doesn't sound or look like anything you think you're capable of or educated enough to do or whatever. You are enough to do whatever it is he has given you to do. Write it down. Write the vision. Make it plain. And it says so that they can run. Because you might not be the one that's been called to run the gameplay, to run the vision. You might just be called the one that writes it down and makes it plain and reaps the benefit for the other people who are running and getting it done. And that's the whole point about trees. There's a trunk and then there's branches. There's a
Mhm.
vine and then there's the branches. The job of the branches is to reach out, is to do the work, to provide shade and shelter for the tree. Like, we didn't even get a chance, and people should probably take a minute and look up what the steps of pruning are. First, you got to remove anything that's dead, dying, or damaged. Right? I don't know how much time we have, but secondly, you got to select and establish a desired structure, meaning most often a dominant leader. In most trees, the most dominant leader is the what? It's the trunk of the tree.
Yeah.
So if you don't remove everything in your life that's dead, broken, dying, or damaged, I don't really know. I don't think that we need to talk about your tree and your fruit any further. If you're not willing for those things to be removed from your life, let them people die off and go.
Yes.
Let,
And sometimes we
let
have
it.
to go through isolation in order for preparation.
But I think unfortunately, people look at isolation as punishment. It's not
Mm.
a punishment for you to be called to be by yourself.
No, it's
You know,
not.
Jesus went up on the mount by himself.
Yourself. Yes.
Well, people he could have called and say, "Hey, come up here with me." But he was called to be in a place alone so that he could be taught and shown what his purpose and reminded of what his
Yes.
purpose on this earth was. And it's the same thing. Like, stop looking at, when we were going through the period of quarantine where people had to shelter in place, I was the happiest person you ever wanted to meet. That means I ain't gotta go out here and act like I like nobody. I ain't gotta brush up on nobody. I ain't gotta stand in line. Nobody gotta step on my shoes. I don't have to do any of that. So step one
Mm-hmm.
of the mourning process in this crisis was easy for me. I was willing to let the dying, dead, and damaged things go. Secondly, we have to select and establish a desired structure that we're going to call to be our dominant leader. Like, and during this time, any competing stems, anything that's competing with that which you have determined is the done has to go. So if you know you got friends in your life that every time you turn around, they got to have one up on you. They always seem to be silently competing with you. You start a new business, they start one next door.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
buy a they buy the same one in a different color. You let them cut that off.
Hmm.
A tree cannot flourish when the limbs are competing against each other about who gonna be first, who gonna be next, who gonna be the biggest, who gonna be the best. Like, go be your own tree or
Yes.
bush or foliage, whatever it is you've been called to do. Third, select and establish the lowest permanent branch. You have to be honest with yourself and set thresholds with yourself. If trees that are along thoroughfares of the street are not trimmed, it can block your what? Your vision when you're driving
Mhm.
down the street.
Yeah.
And you'll be like, they need to trim these trees back. You need to
Mm-hmm.
trim the trees back. You need to establish this is the lowest I'm going to ever go in this situation. This is the lowest that I could ever feel. This is the lowest deal I can ever make in order for it not to block my vision of where I'm going. And then, fourthly, select you some scaffolding branches. We don't think about scaffolding. You need a structure that will allow you to climb the ladder, allow you to
Yeah.
go higher. It's okay to connect with other women who are in the same business that you are. Girl, don't nobody want your customers. Don't nobody want your clients. Ain't nobody driving down south where your clients at. It's clients in the
No.
north, it's clients in the east, and it's clients in the west. You can't client all the clients.
Exactly.
Don't nobody want your stuff. It's enough
Mhm.
stuff for everybody to have their own stuff. But you do have to establish scaffolding branches that will allow you to climb that ladder, will allow you to grow as a young tree, to be a old tree, a seasoned tree like they are, and to be able to do so without feeling like you coming to take from what they have. Boo, I'm an orange tree. I don't need your apples. They don't go. I wasn't created for that. And lastly, like, get you some temporary branches that will prop you up in the event that you feel by the wayside, or in the event that you fall weak. And it's okay to prop another sister up. It's okay
Yes.
to give her some advice. It's okay to, pour into her business and be like, listen, I know you don't have it, but you need this insurance, so I went ahead and paid for it for you. Or I went ahead and covered this for you. Like, it's okay. And I think if we could deal with those 5 steps, which are basic steps of pruning, they're not that deep. Let's just go Google it, and apply it to your life. I think people will understand that in order to produce the fruit you were created to produce, you have to be pruned. And unfortunately, it might be happening in a crisis, but the crisis does not need to be. Look, it ain't going nowhere right now. So don't make no sense to get up and predicate everything that you're
Mhm.
doing on the basis of what COVID is doing today. The hell with what COVID is doing today. What are you doing today?
Exactly.
Going to do. I don't want Wednesday to end without me giving Wednesday all the hell I came to give it, without me taking from Wednesday all it came to give me. I don't want to lay down at night and feel like I left anything of Wednesday on the table. And it doesn't make any sense for us to continue to hide and use COVID as another excuse to not produce fruit. That's all
Wow. I don't think it's nothing else left to be said. You said it all. I don't need to add or take away from anything. Thank you so much. But although there is one thing, I think you might have touched on it. When it comes to people having the same type of business,
Mm-hmm.
not to get it in your feelings, because, like you said, there's people everywhere, north, south, east, and west, because the group that you may be assigned to may not be the group that I'm assigned to. And we got to be okay with that. And it's okay to lift one another up, even if we have the same type of business. I would like to see more of that.
You and me both.
Hopefully, before I leave Earth.
But that also is it's a fear and an esteem issue.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When people are fearful, they hoard.
Yeah.
When you don't believe in yourself, you hate on other people.
Yeah.
When that woman over there is exhibiting something that you don't know how to exhibit in you, all of a sudden you don't like her. Why don't you? You don't know what she's had to go through in order to exhibit that type of boldness, in order to exhibit that tenacity. Why don't you ask her, hey sis, how you get so bubbly? How is it that you're able to smile all this? You trying to tell me you don't have no issues in your, and I guarantee you, if you walk and approach it that way, and she can sit down and probably tell you something that you might be dealing with in that moment. The very answer that you might need for what you're dealing with lies in the next woman that you hating on and refuse to speak to. It's not speaking to each other. You get out the car, rolling your eyes. You don't even know that lady. She's
Exactly.
just at the same stove. Like, why? Just say hello. Say good morning. But if we could do that, there's nothing more beautiful than a forest full of trees. Or a place that's just full of beautiful trees. Instead of a tree over here and another tree over there, all the trees spaced out. Like, what's that?
Foolery.
Foliage. Like, get you some fruit, boo.
Yes. Thank you, Sherronda. Thank you for all those powerful nuggets and gems that you have left upon us. Before we close out, is there anything else that you want to say to the people who may be viewing? Because I don't think really there's anything else left. No, you
I
good.
don't have anything. Nope. Just remember, what we talked about. That's it. Don't walk around here just being foliage with no fruit. I think if you take anything away from that, question every action that you take in your business as an entrepreneur and ask yourself, am I being foliage right now? Or am I being fruit? Because we could be real petty.
Yes.
I think if we could just ask ourselves that question with every action that we take with another woman in business, ask yourself, is this conversation I'm having with her foliage, or am I producing it, or am I being fruit for her right now?
Amen. Thank you so much. But let the people know how they can stay in touch with you.
Why?
She just playing, people. She just playing.
Facebook is Sherronda Daye. On Instagram is Sherronda Daye. If you interested in any business products, our immune defense tea line that we launched at the beginning of COVID, you can reach us at www.defensetea.com. We got all that good, all that turmeric, all that stuff. Because I was just like, oh, I'm shining, but them vitamins and stuff that we're taking, or inbox me. Like if there's something that you just want to know from another woman who's not afraid to tell you how I have been able to manage and maintain and keep my mind in 11 years of being an entrepreneur, 11 years of not working for anybody else, not unless I chose to, hit me up. I don't have a problem sharing my story or trying to help you develop one of your own.
And she means what she says. Okay. So you one of those who needs some help, reach out to her. For real. All right. So thank you everyone for tuning in. We're talking up with Tamika. I'm so happy that we had our special guest on today. No other than Sherronda Daye. I won't tell anyone what the L stands for, but
Tell
yeah.
mine, I'm gonna tell you.
Anywho, here to help you evolve in order to elevate. You can follow me on Instagram at evolve number two elevate underscore coach T. Also on Facebook, evolve to elevate. And for your 30-minute breakthrough session, you can go to tamikafussell.com, which is my website, and register there for that. And as always, it's my desire that these videos inspire, encourage, and motivate you. Thank you again to our guests and to you, our viewers, for tuning in. Check in with us next Thursday as we continue the topic of prune for purpose. Take care and be blessed. Peace.